This is Amit Tandon, produced by mother, directed by wife. And I see a lot of people who belong to that tribe. And what happened was that I was listening to the other people, and I was really impressed by the Malik sisters. Big round of applause for the two ladies who've been uh, climbing every mountain. And I was wondering that, in 90% of the cases, if, girls would go home and say, "Mummy, kal Mount Everest पे चढ़ना है," वो कहेंगे, "बेटा शाम को 8 बजे से पहले आ जाना." But so, what I wanted to talk about, the topic that was given, that I gave was understanding the male Homo sapien, because I wanted to sound a little intelligent in a TEDx talk. But I'm basically talking about Indian men, that's all. And I wanted to set a context about Indian men. We've seen a lot about, what's been happening with women and all that. I wanted to give the male perspective, what really happened out here. Okay, let's go back a little bit in history. Like if you look at different religions, long time back in times of Mahabharata or Ramayana, people did a lot of stuff just to have a son. Then a detailed story that I like to pick up is where we have the facts. When Akbar, the great emperor, we all know about him, right? He conquered half of India. But his problem was that he didn't have a son. Beta nahi hua. Okay. And, and it became a really big problem. Like 12, 15 years of his marriage, he didn't have a kid. He didn't have a son, more clearly. And, so he was spending a lot of time just working on that. And you can't say that he didn't have enough opportunities. When you have 300 women in your harem, you have enough opportunities. And, at one point of time, he was so frustrated about this, spending all the time wondering what to do and stuff and, trying his best. How tough would it be even in the Mughal Darbar? Half the time, emperor is not there and people are asking, kya ho raha hai? Badshah kahan hai? Wo try kar rahe hain. And finally, Salim happened. Okay, and how it happened was that Akbar walked 32 kilometers bare feet to Sikri from Agra, and then he asked for a son, and finally Salim happened. And just because the son was born, they moved the capital and made it Fatehpur Sikri. They created an entire city around it. You know that? But look at a woman, just a couple of generations later on there. Mumtaz Mahal, she had to go through 20 years of love, marriage, and 14 childbirths, and finally dying in the 14th one to get one monument. Okay, so there's a huge difference here that has been always there. So how I look at it is that, today men in India are stupid. They're not born stupid, they're brought up stupid. And I'll tell you why. एक लड़के से घर में सिर्फ एक एक्सपेक्टेशन होती है कि वो पैदा हो जाए. Then he's brought up just the same way as you bring up a dog. कि जब तक खेल रहा है और खा पी रहा है तब तक ठीक है, एक दो बातें मान जाएगा तो डेमो पर्पस के लिए भी अच्छा है. Whereas a girl is brought up with this constant threat and fear कि पता नहीं कैसा लड़का मिले, कहाँ शादी हो, एजुकेशन पूरी होनी चाहिए, प्रोफेशनली क्वालिफाइड होनी चाहिए, पता नहीं कैसा लड़का मिले, कहाँ शादी हो, स्टिचिंग आनी चाहिए, कुकिंग आनी चाहिए, पता नहीं कैसा लड़का मिले, कहाँ शादी हो, डोंट थिंक टू मच अबाउट सेक्स एंड रोमांस, पता नहीं कैसा लड़का मिले, कहाँ शादी हो. And then, just to give you context, like when we were kids, we were made to do a lot of stuff in the name of doggy. Doggy आ जाएगा, खाना खा ले. Doggy आ जाएगा, homework कर ले. Then you grow up, you turn 7, 8 years old, and you see the dog for the first time, and you're like, साले तेरे चक्कर में टिंडे खाए थे. And you throw stones at him, and the dog has no clue why he's being hit. Similarly, when a girl gets married, she looks at her husband, साले तेरे चक्कर में. And the guy has no clue. The guy has no clue why he is being hit. पहले 6 महीने तो हवा नहीं लगती, फिर इतना आइडिया लग जाता कि सॉरी बोलना है. बट अभी भी ये नहीं समझ में आता कि क्यों और कैसे. Like, 80% of the time men say sorry either when they're hungry or they're horny. And there's another reason why men say sorry is because, you can't live together when you're fighting, right? If, for example, your wife is looking at you angrily and suddenly a friend of yours calls up and says, "Aaja yaar, Manish aaya hua hai US se, aaja daru piyenge." Can you go? You can't, right? In case you go that evening, that event will be noted down and jotted down and stored in a folder called reference documents for all further arguments. And that's one folder which doesn't have a delete button. You don't really want to go there. And what more I want to talk, I wanted to talk a little bit about my story, what has happened with me as a son throughout. One, when you're a son, especially in a Punjabi family, whatever you might do, you are a disappointment. Clearly, you are a disappointment. Like my father was very, very sure of me. He was very confident that I'll not be able to clear my engineering entrance. So he saved money for my donation college for 5 years. And I disappointed him and I got into a college on my own. And the first reaction when you tell him, कि पापा मेरा अपने आप admission हो गया, now I don't really need the money. The first thing was, फिर मैं इन पैसों का क्या करूं? And between a father and son, there's a huge problem in India. Like I'm a Punjabi. We have very limited communication. Like 80% of my communication with my father was in 4 sentences. पेपर हो गए तेरे? पेपर मिल गए? जा दो सोडे ले आओ. And you can't even convince him for something. You can't go to him and say, पापा मेरे को आईफोन ले दो. क्यों नोकिया आशा पे आवाज नहीं आती? नहीं पापा वो पकड़ा हुआ नहीं अच्छा लगता. बेटा पकड़ा हुआ तो तू भी नहीं अच्छा लगता, अच्छा छोटा होता. हमने कौन सा बदल दिया? And it's not the father's problem. Partly the problem is with the mother. Because the way a mother brings up a son at home it's amazing. Like, her reaction would be, तुम 2 मिनट रुक जाओ, पहले मैं इसको खाना खिला दूं, ये बेचारा सारा दिन फुटबॉल खेल के आ रहा है. तुम तो ऑफिस से आ रहे हो, तुमसे कौन से पत्थर तोड़े हैं? And the father is looking at you and thinking, यार मैं पैसे कमा के आ रहा हूँ, वो फूक के आ रहा है. And that kind of starts it. And the mothers are really very, very protective. Like Punjabi mothers are so protective that they'll get their son married just so that they have somebody else to blame for his mistakes. And then, and it's a very strange relationship between a father and son. Like, I have a son, he's a 10-year-old boy now. And, we have a very special relationship. Basically, we hate each other. Whenever we are looking at each other, there's only one thought in our minds. When will you stop embarrassing me in front of others? Both the sides. Even our threats to each other are the same. Mummy ko bata दूं? And the thing is, as you grow up, and this is same for all father and son relationships, the things change when the son gets his girlfriend home for the first time. And that's the time when father is thinking exactly what son has been thinking for all these years. यार ये बंदी तो अच्छी है पर इससे कैसे फंस गई? And what also happens is that when you're growing up in a Punjabi household, when you turn 20, 21, that's the time when your father calls you first time to have a drink with you. कि आजा तू टेस्ट करके तो देख कैसी होती है, तुझे पता होना चाहिए. And that's the time when you're wondering, पापा ये जो स्कूटर आप सिखा रहे हो ना, ये बाहर 100 पे दौड़ाते हैं हम. And drinking with your father is like watching the college fashion show sitting next to your principal. You enjoy the experience, but you can't express yourself. And drinking has different stages. Peg 1 is when you start opening up. Peg 2, peg 3 is when you fall in love with the person that you are drinking with. Peg 4, peg 5 is of honesty. So one day we were drinking, I was on peg 2 and my father was on peg 5. And I said, Dad, I know you love me. You never say that, but I know you love me. You've kept my picture next to your bed throughout your life. I know you love me. Unfortunately, my father was at the honesty stage. He said, Kaka, love shab theek hai, but your picture out there works as a contraceptive. Whenever we are in the mood, we end up looking at what we did last time. That's how this relationship really works. Okay, and then I grew up further. I did my engineering, MBA, and those are not really the times you want to remember because there's no female contact, especially when you are an engineer, MBA. So you end up doing you end up being in that arranged marriage bracket. And I am the most traditional example that you can get for it. I had an arranged marriage through a newspaper advertisement with a girl who was 1 year junior to me in school. And how this happened was that, we placed I did my MBA and, I was working and my parents placed the ad in newspaper which said, 26-year-old Punjabi boy earning 35,000 rupees a month, 5 feet, 8 inches, handsome, ye, wo, and, all that stuff. And we started getting responses. I had another friend who was again Punjabi, he was working with me at the same salary, was an engineer and MBA, and had put his ads in the same newspaper, which meant we got the same responses all the time. And what happens is, and we used to compare notes, we were sitting next to each other. You get the same responses, and unfortunately, he was 6'2", so every time he got the response before I got. And I, first time he went to see a girl and, he came back and I asked him, what happened? Nah, she wasn't really my type. I didn't like her. They're like, okay, now if he's rejected it, I can't say yes to her. Then second case again happened, he called up, he was called and again came back and I asked, what happened? Nah, I didn't like her, not really my type. And I didn't even meet that girl. Then next what happened was that one of the cases, I got the call first. And I went and, met the girl. And I think they refused because they didn't pick up our call the 10 times we called up. And they also messaged that don't ever call us up again. I think that was no somewhere, I think so. But then next day I went to office and he asked me what happened. And I found myself saying the same thing. Nah, I didn't really like her. She wasn't really my type. We can't take that in our ego as a guy, we've been rejected, especially in, when your entire family has been treating you like that for the last 26 years, like a dog or whatever you can call it. And in the end, I'll like to talk a little bit about, how women have, evolved accordingly. They've seen that men are stronger physically and women are much stronger intellectually, right? So they figured out their games where a man can never beat them. They've created games of their own, like colors. Married people would understand it's a game that you can never win. A man understands 3 colors, red, green, blue, probably yellow, and a couple of them. Then you get married, then you discover that even peach and mauve are colors. Then you're like, now I get the game. A few years later, you figure out, like I figured out recently that there's a color called turquoise, and there's a color called fuchsia. Till then, I thought कि fuchsia तो कोई French में गाली है. And then I wanted to show off, and I told my wife, yeah, वो turquoise purse अच्छा लग रहा है ना बड़ा. Just to show off, I knew turquoise. And she replied, that's not really turquoise, that's turquoise-ish. Like what happened? मतलब turquoise plan किया था पर premature हो गया. Then there's another game that they invented, which is called the argument. You can never win that from a lady. And women know that they'll never lose an argument. But they'll still argue with you sometimes purely कि यार बड़े दिन हो गए warm up नहीं हुआ. So you'll get a call, यार मौसम बड़ा अच्छा हो रहा है, पकौड़े ले आओगे? हाँ हाँ मैं ले आऊँगा. तुमको शाम तक याद रहेगा? हाँ हाँ मैं ले आऊँगा. ऐसा तुम ना रिमाइंडर लगा लो. नहीं नहीं मैं ले आऊँगा. मैंने शाम को एक बार SMS कर दूंगी. नहीं नहीं मैं ले आऊँगा. तुम इरिटेट क्यों हो रहे हो? You know, men and women both play mind games. Men and women both play mind games. The difference is that a woman is playing chess, so she thinks 15 moves ahead. A man is just playing Ludo. Thank you so much. Thank you.